Hi, and welcome back to the CEO and the Salesman podcast. Today, we're joined by Anthony Sapountzis. He's a really good friend of mine, client, and just an amazing person who's really been involved in the technology landscape for a long, long time, like 17 years or so. So, welcome, Anthony. How are you going today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast and be on the opposite seat for a while.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think you interviewed me about 4 or 5 years ago. So, yeah, it's been a long time coming. Mate, look, I just want to dive straight into this. The hottest topic at the moment is Beanie Babies. No, I'm joking. It's obviously AI. That probably demonstrates my significant age. Is AI? You guys have done an incredible job. Now I know your story, but our listeners probably don't. Mate, 17 years in technology. What do you see happening in the course of what's happening now and what's happening in the next couple of years with the AI? Because as you develop software, people are talking about developing software. They're talking about, oh well, we don't need coders anymore. You've got an entire business that does that. Tell me how you bring those two together to really create outcomes for your clients.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't think we're in a bubble like the Beanie Babies. I think this is a bit different to where we're
Yep.
going.
Yep.
My analogy is this. I read online, there's someone saying like the AI boom is equivalent to the light bulb, like being invented. But I think it's more the equivalent of, it's not the light bulb event. It's sort of going from like the incandescent ones to the LEDs to we don't know what the next one's going to be and how it's going to light everything. Like it's a shift that seems to happen every few years in the tech space. So in
Yes.
17 years, I started the business in 2008 while I was in uni with Andrew, my business partner.
Yep. Yep.
There was an iPhone 2 at that point. I think the iPhone 2 had just come out in 2008 or 2007. There was no app store. It was all websites. There was nothing. Then iPhone 3 came out, and then that started a huge shift in everything that we've done. And then since then, it's been apps. I remember like the iPad came out, and we're like, who really wants a 10-inch phone? Like, what's the point of
Nobody.
this thing? And we
That's
laughed at it.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was completely ridiculous. We didn't even think about trying to make an app for it and be one of the first ones. And then it just blew up. And then there was another change, but that was like a minor evolution. Where we are now with AI is it's very, I think it's night and day the changes that have happened and how quickly they've happened. I think has been more surprising. So an
Yeah.
iPhone 16 to an iPhone 3, there's not that much difference realistically if you think
That's
about it.
right. I actually was thinking the other day, there was somebody was saying there was videos of the old iPhones, the old phones where, you could twist it around or slide it up or you click
Yeah,
a button and
Sony.
the thing slides out and all of these cool things. And now we're just sort of awash in an ocean of sameness. Like it's
Yeah,
all it doesn't matter
yeah.
what
I,
version it is,
I, I
it's all
go a
the
bit
same.
different, so I've got a fold.
Well,
But
mate,
that's as much as you can stand out.
yeah, exactly. I'm really excited for the fold, but I'm so stuck in the Apple ecosystem that because do I need to learn a new thing? I bought myself an Apple computer probably 10 years or 12 years ago now, and went down to the Mac store and spent all the money, giant monitor, pads, the whole thing, the 5 grand worth of gear, right? And I was very excited. Got it home, and I went Control C and went, oh,
Shit,
how do I
this doesn't
use
work.
this? I started my first tech business in 1999. I don't know what I'm doing here. And just after about 2 hours, I said, and also our software that we were developing at the time only ran on Windows. So you needed to use parallels. You needed to then split the RAM, full 4 gig of RAM. We really spent the money. I had to split the RAM to go some on parallel, some on Windows. It was all pain. I said to my wife, this is either going to be the first and most expensive Mac Frisbee or I take it back. She goes, give it to me. And so that's when my wife's journey with Mac started. And I went straight down to the shop and bought myself a Sony Vaio when I could breathe. I knew how it works.
There is a big shift there, and I remember those old phones. So Sony Ericsson, I think, was the ones that used to do a lot of those weird things. They had the ones that looked like a video camera and the Engage, which was like a Game Boy type phone, and all these other things. Technology, like you said, so from those to what we have now, minor transitions, like screen got bigger, keys disappeared, still got a processor, still got RAM, you got internet. Cameras were there from 2010 or whatever, like on the Nokia 7110 or whatever it was.
I had on my
If you
Motorola
remember,
Razr, like
yeah,
1.3 megapixel, like click. It was like, what is
it
this?
was amazing.
Is this a picture of Bigfoot? I'm not sure what I'm looking at here.
If you open them up now, it's probably like a postage stamp on your monitor, but there's not much changed. And then it's really like ChatGPT came out and then sort of like transformed the world overnight. But everyone, like people who don't know, think, all right, that's AI. But AI has been a thing in computer science since the 70s, so over 50 years. Neural networks, every 5 to 10 years, I think we're not far away from this artificial general intelligence, which is the AGI, which if you're trying to keep up with news, you hear that term thrown out a lot. But the change, like I mentioned, from light bulb to the invention of the light bulb, from candles, like that's where we are. It's a huge thing that's happened, and the speed of the progress we've had over the short amount of time, with how quickly it's trying to replace people's work, like vibe coding, what anyone's heard of, and that's probably the
Vibe
biggest
coding.
impact. Yeah, the biggest impact in the software space. It's ridiculous. If you asked me in January or December, I would have said, no, it's still years away before being able to replace a coder. In the past 6 weeks, we've onboarded every developer with AI tools, and unless they're doing it, they have to use them. It's just an aid that going to help you do the job faster, and you'll be able to deliver better quality.
Yeah, absolutely. I was asked on a podcast yesterday, funnily enough, how because I'm in marketing, how do I see it? And I've thought about it because people, this is the death of marketers as much as probably the death of programmers, and when you've sort of got to cut through the hype and find out where it actually sits. And how I positioned it in my mind and with my team is as there's always a secret sauce to every business, and that's what makes it a business. If it was your business and my business were exactly the same as everybody else's business, there's no reason for us to exist. So there's some secret sauce in that business, and how I see the AI is being a facilitator to get us from a moment in which we can deploy our secret sauce to the next moment we can deploy our secret sauce. And so it's the bridging of those moments. Certainly in marketing, we're doing a lot of technical setup. We're doing a lot of administration. We're posting things. We're doing all of these activities that are not necessarily thinking about the client, thinking about the outcomes of the client and delivering value. So how do we go from high value activity to high value activity? And the bridge there is the AI in my business.
Yep.
That's how I've been thinking about it.
I think in your space in the marketing, like the AI will help you write copy, help you generate 15 variations of one piece of copy that you may create, so you can iterate a lot faster. But you're in a very subjective space. It's what's going to resonate with people is not something that you're going to be able to just run an algorithm and say, yeah, this works, until you run those tests and you get those numbers. But are you going to let the AI test a million things, or are you going to go with your gut and a bit of experience saying, this has worked in this industry and let's start with these, so we don't have to run the million iterations. We're going to have to run 300.
That's right. And humans aren't logical. Humans
No.
aren't logical, have never been logical. And anybody who says that our product is the best, fastest, and cheapest misses the point of what marketing is. Their product might be better, faster, cheaper, but people don't buy for those reasons most of the time. A good example recently is I bought myself a new TV for the lounge room we renovated, and there was a Sony or a TCL. Not bagging out TCL, but at the end of the day, I bought the Sony simply because, even though it had the same sort of feature set, but the Sony was an extra $1,000, simply because I felt more comfortable that if anything went wrong, it's the Sony that is going to get repaired and they're going to have good customer service. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the TCL, and that's how I think it may not. And that's how people make buying decisions. Certainly when you're dealing with larger organizations, it's no longer about hustling and making the best amount of money. The person that makes the purchase decision makes it based on emotion. They make it based on whether or not they're going to look bad or get fired or get roused on by their boss for buying a crappy product. So this is how I think about marketing: is you need to understand that people are emotional, people are based on fear, and they make their decisions nothing to do with logic. Logic is like the fourth or fifth consideration, if it even gets considered at all. So why would you think that a logic-based system could actually do marketing or do creative development like what you guys do from end to end? It can get you 70% of the way there, but it allows me to go from creative act to creative act or conversation to conversation. That's where I'm sitting.
It accelerates the process. I think it doesn't replace, it accelerates. So since we've really started using the OpenAI platform, and I think it was end of 2022 when it came out, it's really, it just clicked in my mind that it's an assistant and it's a tool. It's not going to replace us. It just helps us do something faster. So you can have a chat open, ask it a question, go do your work and come back and you've got a response. In the very first days, it will write something and not going to be perfect. Now it's much better than it was. There's no such thing as perfect, really. It depends on who's reading it.
What's subjective? That's once again, yeah.
Yeah. And then now there's like the research tasks. So instead of me having to spend 2-3 hours Googling and reading 50 different posts and putting an opinion together, I can do a cursory search, get a top level understanding, do a deep research task 15, 20 minutes later. I get something to read, and that may align or not align with what I'm thinking. And now I've got a different avenue to go look at. But I've just saved myself 2, 3 hours. It's how do you leverage the tool to get ahead and allow you to do those moments, move from moment to moment faster, I think, rather than sit back and let it control the moments.
Yeah, absolutely. So how have you guys, so you built a product a couple of, about 6 months ago,
Yes.
called DevReady AI. I
Yep.
wanted you to tell the listeners about that because I think it's a really cool piece of kit.
Yeah, so that really, the spark was I was using ChatGPT in the early days, and I just had the idea. I'm like, oh, we can actually use this to write all the documentation that we create when we're planning products. So we develop software products for clients. For those that are listening, we make app systems, integrations. We work with corporates, established businesses, and startups, and we develop custom software or MVPs, integrations, things like that. So as we go through this process, we have what we call the DevReady process, which is a workshopping process where we go through, work with clients, understand their goals, alignment, and align to their business needs, and then try and develop a product that's going to deliver value to their end user, whether it's an internal thing or their customers. And through that process, we write a lot of documentation, we create a lot of wireframes. As I was doing that one day, I just realized this could actually do this. I ran a couple of tests, it did it. And then for the next 6 months, it was me on the couch every night for a couple of hours, just hacking away and just experimenting with what it can do. Because there was nothing you can Google that'll tell you this is how you can use this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And there was a lot of just testing and experimenting. And I just post stuff to our Teams room going, oh, I got this working tonight. And then eventually it came to a point where it's, all right, this can actually start supporting us in doing what we're doing. But the platform allows you to design a product from an idea. So you go through a basic survey to get some background information on the product. We can then generate, I think it's about a 3,000 word brief, which outlines what your product could look like, who your stakeholders are, what's the main flow through the system, some key requirements, and what an MVP would look like, what future state would look like. Then you can go into further planning of developing modules and features, user stories, requirements, and acceptance criteria. And this is all tools that we will do manually by hand, but now it's just really accelerated. So AI can help you generate all of this content. But the way we've built it is we haven't got the one magic button, which is do the thing, and it just does everything. It's step-by-step methodical
You can't
process where
vibe
you're
code yet?
reviewing. No, not in there. We tried to build that, but then it just, if you make if something's not right early on, the effect just the problem cascades and it just goes down the wrong path.
Yeah, got it.
And we don't want people to sit there and just press a button and try to get an output. So that's what people are doing. So vibe coding, there's a lot of people that are just testing it, saying, make me an app, make me a to-do app. And then they just give it the thing and go, oh, I can one-shot an app. That's great, but that's not going to give you the right product. It's not going to solve a need. It's going to give you the outcome that you're after. So our method is step-by-step guiding a non-technical person through a process where we've developed through experience on how you would design a product. And then the AI is assisting you along the way and replacing us effectively.
What I remember from our conversations is that you used to charge significant amount of money to actually build out this MVP, build out this not MVP, but to build out this documentation, like $30,000 or $40,000, right?
Yeah, at a minimum. And now
Yeah.
we've cut that back because we can get the same output much more cost effective, but give a better output because we can get more done in the same amount of time because we've got this AI assistant now who can do the heavy lifting. Then we review, put in our knowledge, put in what's missing from our expertise and what we've understood from conversations or things we've done similar that may apply. I like to connect dots from different systems, from different industries and verticals. So I can draw something from vertical A and put into yours because you may not have seen it, but we're cursory. We've got a lot of information around a lot of areas just because of different environment industries that we've worked in. So we can mix and match ideas that the AI may not put together yet.
Yeah, look, I was having a conversation the other day about that, and it's the experience that the human has the ability to take an experience from a completely different industry, different product, different conversation, and weave that into the current state, and that is the creative space. That is the creative execution piece. We go, well, there's an idea there's an idea. You bring these two things together, and now it's something unique. So now with the DevReady AI product, what are you charging now? So you used to charge minimum $30,000-$40,000 for this process.
Yep.
What are you charging now for it?
So if you only use the DevReady AI platform yourself, I think it's $80 a month and you can get access to the full suite of everything. and you may use it for a month and it'll solve your need. If you're building a product ongoing, then you keep it going. With consulting involved, it depends on the scope of the product and how much we need to do, because then we go into wireframes, talk to stakeholders, and go through a bit more of an actual consulting process, not just ask a survey and generate a brief. So it's a lot there, but it's different pricing. It really depends on the scope of the product, what industry you're in, what you're looking at trying to build, how serious you are as well. So if you're not going to be ready to invest into designing your product and knowing whether it's something you should build, you may jump in too early and spend the money where you shouldn't.
Yep. How many times have you seen that? People jumping in, they've got a half an
All
idea
the
and they
time.
go, right, let's go.
All the time. I think so. We've got a term internally. We call them rescue projects. So we get a
Yes.
lot. Majority, I'd say probably 60-70% of our work has come in from someone has heard about us after they've gone either overseas or onshore. It doesn't have to be one or the other, where they've jumped in too quick, started building, spent $100,000 to $300,000 on a product that didn't work, constantly has delays, is always over time, over budget. They're fed up and had enough. Then they find us and go through this process and go, I wish I had this when I started. We had one client mention when we showed him the actual DevReady system, he goes, this would have saved me 2 years and $500,000, because he would have had a plan from the start.
Yeah. Back in the day when I had my software company, we were trying a new product. We didn't want to do it internally, so we got external contractors to do it. We built what would be considered now the maximum unviable product. So it was every idea that I had. I was like drinking from a fire hose, these poor developers. Anyway, it was we're about 300 grand in. They delivered it, and at the end of the day, really didn't do what I wanted it to do. It was just too big, and we never actually launched it. We basically burned 300 grand, and also it was a year overdue.
And that's not unsurprising.
18-month build, and we did fixed price because I thought I was smart. The problem with that is that when they called us up and went, oh, the developer has actually not been producing actual code. They've been developing screenshots and animations for you to look at to tell you that it was a real problem. Anyway, So, and then...
I haven't heard that one before.
Oh, right. No, so the developer, so I get these calls and I get these screenshots and little demos, and but basically what he'd been doing is animating screens and doing no actual coding behind it.
Well,
and
that's
so after a year and absorbing 250 grand of hours, they said the developers left, and we've been looking at the code, and it doesn't exist. So I said, okay, cool. And so, well, we're going to have to charge you again for it. I said, well, you've actually done a fixed price contract, which was the agreement. And what I figured out is the reason it took another year and a half to actually finish, or the year to a year and a half to finish, is because what happened is because they weren't getting paid to do the job, they'd already been paid. It sort of got stuck in the punishment job. Maybe we'll cut a few lines of code every now and then. And this is a commercial product being sold to Mum and Dad Australia and New Zealand. It cost, the retail cost was about $15,000, $15,750. When I received it, there was about $5,000 left over. I said, look, bugger it, send me the code. I get my developers to finish it. Oh, you got to pay the final amount. Yep, cool. Pay the final amount, receive the product, started to install it, and the database didn't work. And so the developer came to me and said, oh, you need a commercial license of SQL to run the database. Like, that's interesting. Okay. Called up the developer and went, so I need a commercial license of SQL, but do the clients need a commercial license of SQL? Yes. So this product sells for $15,000, yeah? Yep. How much is a commercial license of SQL for every client? Oh, about 20. Fantastic. So my $15,000 product needs a $20,000 database to run it. And so that's the reason it never actually went to market. We tried to go legal, and at the end of the day, I thought, you know what, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I've got to move on with my life. Yeah.
And that's a very familiar story. Look, with a lot of problems, we've had one client that went overseas, had to spend $50,000 to get the source code after it was not built correctly in the first place. And I've got another client that reached out the other day. Their relationship is soured. They're starting again. They're just not even going to bother, because it's not worth the time, which is the situation you're in. Is the headache and then the money you have to spend to try and chase someone. And then if they're overseas, good luck trying to get anything happening either.
Good luck. Yeah, that's right. Well, these guys were in Sydney, and I thought I had a good relationship, but essentially they just wiped us. They just didn't care. So that was a real problem that we found. But but if we'd had that process, if we had that proper scope at the beginning, if we actually had structured it better, then I can only take ownership and accountability and responsibility for it. It's my business. I spent the money, way it goes. So Anthony, what do you see as the next evolution? So you likened AI to the light bulb or to electricity. Now we've got to find things to plug into it, like washing machines and fridges. What are the next washing machines and fridges that are going to use the AI network.
Yep. So everything at the moment, all the talk and all the hype is on agents. And then if you're keeping up with it, you're hearing about MCP and A2A. So MCP is Model Context Protocol, and that's an equivalent of like an API for a developer, but the agents can then figure out what they can use from another server. So instead of having a very specific way or prescriptive way to connect to an API to retrieve data, because normally when you're building software, if I want to pull data from, say, Xero, and I want to know what list of accounts you have, I need to go to the documentation, find out that you've got an accounts API, and then in that you may have the list function and the edit function and the view function of a specific one. The MCP server just says, I have all these things available, and the agent then decides, all right, the client, the message that's come in says, I want an overview of my accounts. So then it'll go, all right, you've got one that says list accounts that matches overview, so I'll use that one and do the same thing. So it's very similar, but it's structured differently, so then they can talk to each other better. A2A protocol, which is something released by Google, is agent to agent. So that allows an agent to then talk to another agent in a specific way, not just a third-party server. This is, I don't know if it's overhyped, but I think it is overhyped. No, I'm going to say I don't think it is. I think that it is currently overhyped with the agents. My experience is you've got all these online tools like Make and NAN, and there's various other ones that allow people to set up an agent. And I'm sure you, being on LinkedIn, you've seen people say, I set up this AI automation. It does everything. Comment, blah, 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 and I'll give you the link and send you whatever it is. I've left so many comments. I haven't received anything from most of those people yet.
Yeah.
Just because I want to see what they're trying to do. Yep. We use NAN, and I set up an automation the other day to every AI video that I'm watching and I'm learning news from, I need to share this with the team because they're not going to keep up with it, but I enjoy trying to keep up with all this stuff. So I thought, all right, let me set up an automation where I can share that video, get the transcript, summarize it, and now I've got a very short summary of a video. Then for the week's worth of videos, I'll summarize all of those and I'll turn that into a script that I then record a video every week. So I've got some content, I'm learning, and I'm sharing that information.
Yeah,
so cool. I did the first video on Monday, just turned up, and the automation was there in Airtable, and the report was there. I'm looking, and there's heaps of videos about transcript. I'm looking at them, they're all using agents. So the agent is going, all right, when you get a YouTube video, be the AI and figure out what to do with it, and I'm giving you one tool, and that one tool is to transcribe content. Now, that's a waste of an agent because it's got no agency. You're saying you're only allowed to do this one thing, but we're going to spend time and money to try and figure out what tools you have available, how to apply those tools, and then use those tools. Where instead, that's just a standard workflow process. Transcript comes in, our video comes in, generate transcript. There's no need to use an agent to do that. So there's a lot of use cases where people are trying to just throw agents at it, like they were originally just chucking chatbots into everything, where it's not necessary.
That's right. And so, and that's a really great idea. So you are able to continue to be, because I guess one of the roles of a leader is to continue to be on the edge of knowledge and then filter that back to the organization that you feel is important. That's a really interesting way of bringing that. That's how I think about it as well. You know, I'm always out there. I've got, you know, I'm a voracious reader and listener of to books. And I go, well, this is now useful to my team. How do I then bring it back? So I really like that idea. I'm going to steal that idea, Anthony.
That's right.
Thank
so
you.
I'm sharing the videos on LinkedIn and they're on YouTube. And then I'm telling the team, here's the new video, watch it. It's 10 to 15 minutes of a script. And then I'm just throwing what I remember out of those videos in between. Top level overview. If you want to find more, then I've got the links as well. And that's to save me. I'm listening to between 5 to 10 hours of podcasts and videos a week on AI stuff. So the kids are at swimming lessons and I'm listening to something, just trying to consume. Making breakfast, all right, I'm listening to that as well. Just trying to, it's impossible to keep up with everything. I'm just trying as hard as I can. Like you would as well. There's so many things that are changing and then trying to understand how to apply it and trying to get enough different opinions from people, not just the hype and the PR pack that they send about everything is difficult.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, remember, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago that Google had some AI make a phone call and make a restaurant booking. I've never used it, and I don't know how to use it.
I don't even know if it's available.
Yeah, there's another Google project. They just sort of put a pin in and go, right, we've demonstrated that, we're cool, we're out. But the point I was making there is there's lots available out there, and it's a constant fire hose of information being pumped at people. And our job is to filter that and what's actually useful. So I really like that. I'm definitely going to use that.
I can help you set up the automation.
Perfect.
It'll be pretty easy.
All right. I'm in. So, what do you see when it comes to leadership, other than sharing with your team as CTO? Obviously, you've got a bunch of developers working with you. What are your 3 or 4 ideas to help you be a better leader and help to get the maximum out of your team in the age of where people can, Google it anymore, you AI it. But so, how do you do that? What's your process to go through?
I don't know how well I do the leader part. I'm the doer. I like to just get in, do things, and learn. And I learn by doing and testing. And then once I understand something, I can then help share that with the organization. So I'm still very hands on in this stuff. Like that DevReady AI platform, I built the majority of the code base initially. Once we're at the point where we can do it, I'm like, all right, I can't do this anymore at night. I've had enough. We got someone on board to then work on it during the day. So my style is I have to understand something, then I can talk to the team about it, get them to start using it, and then we can get feedback. But I'm also very good at just doing things quickly, getting something set up, and now handing it over, and then moving on to the next thing because I can quickly solve problems. So some of the key things for me in the way we try and set up structures with the team and get information is we've got a great team like beneath Andrew and myself that can support us. So our team in Australia, project director that leads it, very technical. We've got like DevOps standards security guy, and then we've got another project manager. But we can hand them a half-baked idea or a process, and then all right, this is what we want to do, and you can implement it. I know enough information to get you started, so I've saved you a few hours, even though I've taken the cop on those hours. But now that's added to my knowledge base of things that I can apply to something else. So it's not a loss in my mind that way because that's how I joined the dots. And then it's really, all right, let's set up, and then they can set up a process and say, all right, this is how the rest of the team will do it. But I don't just give them the seed, I start the sapling growing, if that makes
Got
sense.
it. Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny you should say that in relation to the reason I ask about leadership, because I don't believe that I'm a very good leader in because I'm a competence-based leader. So I only ever really felt very effective in my organizations when I've been in the sales room, taking the leads at the same rate as the other salespeople, competing with the salespeople and leading the sales team. That are not really, and when I say leading, we had a sales manager. I employed a CEO and a general manager of my organization where we had, all the staff. I was there as, I guess, the lead singer of the band, but I was only the lead singer. Without the band, I was, doing karaoke. It wasn't very good. So I see myself when my best times was when I was even though I'd built the corner office, I had the secretary. It was all very important, but the best times for me was when I took a desk the same size as everybody else in the sales room. I had a phone on my desk. I had a lever arch file. Actually, back in those days, we just started bringing computers on the desks. But yeah, we actually had lever arch files of leads. The phone would ring, and then I'd pick up the phone. Hello, Matthew here, and then I'd just deal with the customer like everybody else. So I really resonate with that as competence based or sort of in the trenches based leadership.
Yeah.
That's what I
I
felt.
think,
My wife,
I was going to say, I think
you go.
in the tech space, especially, you need to be in the trenches to understand because you'll get to a big organization and the CTO hasn't touched, if they're tech, they might not have touched anything for 10 years. How out of date, if you think 10 years ago, what was tech in 2015
Ugh,
compared to now? And
hilarious.
it's, what was it 2 years ago compared to today? Like, you have to be in there to understand how to make these changes. Otherwise, you'll just be relying on everyone else. I don't know what you'd be doing at that level besides just trying to monitor costs.
You become a function of accounting, and that's why a
Yeah.
lot of
And
organizations they put technology underneath it. Well, they put the CTO underneath the CFO. Unless they're a tech organization, most businesses see technology as a cost center.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a tool to help you do something, but that tool can bring huge efficiencies or huge productivity. But it's not, all right, how are we going to keep our AWS bill under control for the next 6 months? That's not what I think a CTO should be doing. They should understand how to do things and be able to see where to make the improvements using technology and try be on top of things. You may make wrong calls because there's 10 different options to pick things, and that happens at times. But you're going to make a decision that's going to affect what the business is doing for the next X years. So I think so we started our business writing PHP. We then moved into C Sharp, and it was a better platform. Then we went from C Sharp, which was everyone just considers enterprise. And then Microsoft made this huge change. It's now open source, anyone can use it. And then we went to, all right, we'll keep the C Sharp in the server, but then on the front end websites, we'll use what's called JavaScript. And there's at the time there was a few big competing things. So there was one called Vue.js, React, and Angular. Angular was made by Google. Facebook made React. React is what more people in the community were using. But I made the decision for our business to go to Angular because it's more opinionated, it's more structured, so there's less decisions you need to make as a developer, which gives you more consistency. It's a better result if you're trying to manage your process. But the community never picked up in that space. So 2-3 years later, we had to drop that platform, move to React, because that's where the community and the support is. But now we have projects we need to support it, and we still have knowledge in it. Like, the skills are transferable, but the community dictates what you should be moving with sometimes in the industry. And then they're decisions that a CTO would make. But if you're not understanding where everything's going, what the future landscape may look like, and you're not in the trenches, I don't know how you can make that decision.
Oh, well, as long as you keep that that technical capability from back in the old days, because Fortran developers these days are really high priced.
Yes, they are. There's not many of them around. They're a rare commodity.
Yeah, they're probably $1,000 an hour now because they're all 80.
You got a very specific job you can have in probably some obscure bank department or airline.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's terrifying how many giant organizations are running on completely ancient technology. I was part of a very large project with I probably can't say it, but a very, very large, well-known Australian multinational organization, and I was invited to one of their secret offices. It was all secret squirrel. We can't wear any company livery or anything like that. Even the sign has been taken down from the office, so it was all very, very secretive. Walked into their office and they go, "Oh, this is our room where we're doing X, Y, Z." And I was going, "Oh, this is going to be some Minority Report stuff, right? This is going to be holographs and it's going to be all happening." And it was a room of 10 guys, and we're all guys, with four screens each, and almost every one of those screens was Excel.
That's all they're doing, just Excel.
They were all
low-level Excel.
They were just grinding away on pivot tables.
Well,
managing data. So I was so deflated. I was so excited to be here.
It's a bit of a letdown. There's a lot of Excel behind the scenes in a lot of organizations, especially when they claim to be tech. It is tech, but it's not what you picture.
Yeah. Yeah, the big four banks in Australia, and all four of them are in the top 10 globally most profitable banks in the world. I won't get into why that is, but you'd be surprised how many of your accounts are on Excel spreadsheet somewhere.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
In the report, it
happens everywhere.
It's outrageous. Yeah, it's quite funny. So, mate, do you see a trend so just thinking about trends and when it comes to businesses and your clients that you're dealing with and the successful applications you build and put out there in the marketplace, are you seeing a trend where you get smaller and smaller teams able to do more and more things? Is that what you're seeing? More hyper-personalized, more specialized teams?
Bit of all of the above. We've gone down the route where we can get better output with the smaller team or the same size team. So you can get through work faster. You've got the AI to help you write code. As long as you understand what it's doing, you can fix problems. So the vibe coding trend, as everyone's calling it, is where you just get AI to help you write code. So I use that at night. So when I'm sitting down on the couch now working on ideas, I'm using those AI tools to write code. So now my nights involve telling it to do something, planning for 10 minutes, then watching TV for 10 minutes and coming back and seeing what it's written and reviewing it. It's not just constantly coding. But in that, say 10 minutes of planning, 10 minutes of waiting, and then, let's say 10, 15 minutes. So in that 30, 45 minutes, I would never have been able to write that much code that it's doing. So huge saving there. You're probably, I don't know, 2-3x at least in me just casually doing it, not running it during the days like the team would be where that's their core thing that they're doing. But you can write tests automatically for all of your code. So you don't have to sit there and write all those tests, or you just tell it what the scenarios are or let it come up with everything. And it's going to give you more output than you'll be able to do. So you can definitely get more done with a smaller team, even more so with a larger team. But then there is more specialized. So there will be people that are, so you have front end, back end coders, but now you're getting sort of like the AI space. I'm the prompt person at the moment in the business because I've done it the most. So you're going to get someone who has to know how to write the prompts and get it to do the thing that it needs to do consistently, because that's a skill that's core to that. That's like being able to Google. In every company, there was one person who could Google better than everyone else. I don't know how. That was the superpower, and that was me in our business. If you couldn't find something, let me Google for 20 minutes, and I'll go to the 10th page of Google. Like I didn't care. I just have to find the information. Or it's the way you talk to it is just robotic, or I don't know. There is specialization that comes in, but when you're going to sort of like these agents, the aim is to sort of offload our agency and thought to this thing that decides what to do on its own. So that's where I think the trend is going towards that, but I don't know if that's as warranted or the direction we should be going in the way people are pushing it at the moment.
Yeah, I got a friend of mine who tells me that marketing is just a function of technology, function of speed. And I see some of his social posts, see some of the blogs that he's Verticom is writing, and it's so obvious that every sentence starts with "in the fast-paced world of," and so and it's got the double dash. Have you noticed that the output's
Yeah.
now creating a double dash or a long dash?
Yeah, the
And
dash.
yeah, that's right. So you start seeing these patterns arrive and come back through the AI writing, and it just lacks heart. So Casey Neistat is a blogger from back in the day. He
Yep.
did video blogging. You remember, Casey?
He was one of the first
Yeah,
guys to start actual vlogs.
first go. Yeah, vlogs.
Yeah.
He did 800 days in a row of vlogging. Yeah. So, and he then said to ChatGPT, "Write me a Casey Neistat style script," and then he filmed it. And he said, "What do you think of that?" Because it lacked heart, it lacked soul, it lacked passion and purpose. It had the storytelling arc, but not really. It didn't really engage the listener. And that was 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. And I'm just finding that continually. So one of my clients, we do content for tech businesses, as you know, and I was able to convince one of my clients, and most people are like you, conservative, technical, capable people, but not necessarily marketers. And although you're doing an amazing job with doing the podcast,
I hope so.
that's great marketing. That's because
Yeah.
the only reason people don't have enough sales is not enough people know about them. And that's that. If you just draw a line under that, and there's marketing. That if everybody knew about you, then you'd have more sales. That's a fact. This might be an oversimplification for my marketing friends, but the point is, we need to, so what I've been able to can do is convince him to be a little bit more human, a little bit more of who they are. And I was very proud that I convinced him to put out a blog called High Velocity Crap, because that's exactly what, if garbage in, garbage out is still true, and probably has been for the 17 years you've been developing software, and I think it's going to continue to be true, garbage in, garbage out, your garbage prompts, garbage activity with AI, garbage data, then you're going to get, and now with AI, you're going to get a high velocity of garbage out.
Definitely. So if you're thinking about the agent to agent thing that I discussed earlier, if you get one agent and you give it access to, say, 20, 30 other agents and 50 tools to do things, if the first one has a hallucination or goes down the wrong path, you're just going to get such a deviation of what you want to get at the end of it, and you won't even know why. And then it's just going to happen so fast that you won't be able to keep up. I mean, if that's connected to some automation where it's sending an email to a prospective lead or a client, and you're at the point where you think, oh, this is good enough, I'm not going to review it, what trouble are you going to cause for yourself? What chaos are you going to put your business in with this fire hose of crap that's coming out of it?
Yeah, mate. So what does an entrepreneur do today? They've got an idea. What's their first best step that they can take to make sure they've actually got a useful product in the future?
In my opinion, it's jump on DevReady.ai, get that plan, because a lot of entrepreneurs are non-tech. If they're techies like myself, they're just going to start writing code, and they should know what to
Yep.
do.
Yep.
If they're a developer, they should know that they need a plan first. If you're non-tech, you don't know what you need to do, you don't know how to approach it. But if you go through the DevReady AI platform, you'll get a brief, and that'll give you a starting point to at least be able to communicate your idea to people in a bit more detail. And then if you're looking at across 3 different agencies, you can at least share the same document with enough information there for them to be able to scope something and come back to you.
Yeah, I
Don't
love
jump
that.
in too quickly. You can talk to all these AI tools. You've got things like Lovable and Replit where you could mock something up as an MVP yourself, tweak it, spend some time learning how to do that, and then you can take that with a brief and say, this is what I'm trying to build. This is the direction I want to go. What can you do with it? At least you're starting at a grounded point rather than an idea on the back of a napkin. Because you wouldn't go to a builder and say, start building my house. It's meant to have 5 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Go to the architect, you go through the planning, you understand where those bedrooms should be placed, where the bathrooms are, 1, 2, 3 levels. Then you go to the engineer and he goes, all right, to build it like this, we need this sort of support and structure and framework everywhere. Then the builder gets and goes, all right, now I know what to build. Software is the same place. When you go to the builders, when you've got a developer punching on the keyboard, if you start there, you've gone in too far and you're too late.
Yep. You're going to end up with a toilet in the kitchen.
Yeah. DevReady AI is like you going to an architect, but going online, looking at all the volume builders, taking all their plans, going then into Photoshop and chopping and changing and screenshotting rooms and making your own plan, going, I want something like this. Help me fix it. Then the engineer, it has to be then to bridge the two, the architect and the builder.
Yeah, I love it. Well, mate, look, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. If anybody is looking to build a product, ideate something, I can highly recommend it. I've had a play with the platform. It's pretty cool. I'll put the links below here, but DevReady AI, he's wearing the shirt, so you know how to find it. Good branding. I need better brand. I'm in marketing. I don't have the branding on. What's going on? I need to get better, Matthew. I'm the plumber with a leaky toilet, right? So, mate, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. If there's anything that you need from my audience or any ideas you want to leave from my audience as a final thought, what's your final thought for the audience?
If you're in business or in marketing or any industry really, and you're cautious about using AI, just start using it, because unless you're using the tool, you're going to be left behind because everyone is using it. It's a hype train, but a lot of the hype is real. So you need to be on the train and you need to use it, because you'll be left behind. So just start using the tools, understanding what you can do. If you want to look at agents and automations, things like that, reach out. We've got a service where we can help you get AI ready, or GPT ready, we're calling it. But there's a lot of things you don't know what's possible until you start playing with it or you talk to someone who knows. So just start using it. Even if it is punching out of a high velocity crap load of blog posts, at least you're learning and playing with the tool. Then just assess and figure out, all right, how do we use this properly? How do we review things, and how do we get it? How do we use it the right way? Really, so it's just get involved. Don't hide from it.
Perfect. Love it. Thanks, Anthony. Really appreciate your time today.
Right.
See you around.
Thanks. See ya.
Stop.